Hello my lovelies, welcome back to another episode of McCall Media TV, whereby in this episode we are going to be looking about how to configure your blog or news, depending which terminology you use, your feature on your WordPress website. Now, if you've been following my tutorials so far, you know over the last few weeks or so I have been diving in and out of a website that I'm building for the other branch of my business, which is a point and click puzzle games mobile design app game website. And I basically took things right back down to a blank canvas, and we've been adding in and implementing one feature and tool of the website at a time. So we're going to dive on over in just a moment, but here's my socials and how to find me. Okay, so if we dive over to the left hand side of my monitor screen, okay, this is the website that we have been building over the last few weeks or tutorials as it were. And in the last few videos we were having a look at some customizing CSS, the about page section, how these pages are using some redirects to external sites, and how this page itself was content was being managed and so forth. And as you can see, there's still quite a lot to do. We can do on the website, like this grey bar is quite bland, we can tart it up a little bit that way and all sorts. But in this video we are going to now basically implement the blog article feature of the site, because I want to add a couple of blog articles about the business and what to expect and that kind of thing. So here is the WordPress admin area for that particular site, and if we basically go back, you can see at the moment there is no menu bar. That's going to be on the next video that I'm going to do straight after this. But essentially we are going to implement these blog posts now. So if you're not familiar or you get confused about what the difference between a website page and a website post is, then basically the quick way to sort of get your head around it, as it were, is think of website pages as like the main key pages and store and infrastructure for your site with regards to what your business is about. The post or the blog articles or the news articles, they are more like your company magazine that is published monthly, for example, and you've got news, features and updates and things like that that's going on, and different topics that you're going to be talking about and articles that you want to publish. That's more like what a blog is all about, and so forth. So it depends what you want to use it for as well. Some people call it news service, some people call it blog articles. It depends on your business and what your main criteria is, or your main motivations. Okay, so we're going to come on over down here where it says our WordPress theme. We have touched on this on the other previous tutorials, so I'm kind of presuming you know where we are going with this. But if we slide on down here somewhere in this particular section or this particular theme, it's called news. News is our blog article. So I'm going to turn on that section, and I'm going to save, and then I'm going to dive on into the customizer. And whilst that's just loading in this second tab, if we quickly have a look over in our first tab and I refresh the page, what you'll see now is that the default demo data for this particular theme has now shown on screen. Okay, so these are like default articles, as it were, and gives you kind of like a mock presentation on how the entire thing is going to display. And then you've got this button down the bottom here that will say you can go and read all the blog articles in full, and then it will take you out to this news section. Now that's just jumped out. That button was like demo data, as it were, so it's basically jumped straight out to the theme owner's website. But essentially we are looking at customizing most of this section today. We're not actually looking at the particular articles, that will come in a couple of tutorials time, but the actual configuration of how everything is working. So let's come back into our customizer point and click, and I'm just going to scroll on down. So this section here at the moment is now news. Okay, and it's quite simple to implement in this particular theme because a lot of the configuration actually comes from the pages themselves, but we can do some little bits. Now, as it happens, I actually want to use the blog or the news feature as a news feature on my site. I don't intend to have like a kind of a daily blog, or I don't intend this site to becoming like a blogging website. So I'm actually quite happy with the title being called Latest News. I might just change it to say Our Latest News. There we go. The first one up here is like the ID for this section. So this helps us if we want to do any anchor HTML links to this particular section of our front page. Now, if we wanted to, we can add in a little description down here. Basically, we've got, let me just move myself out of the way. Down in the bottom corner here, we've got this visual tab and we've got the text. Now remember, the visual is kind of mimicking what the site is meant to look like, or the text, the way it's displayed. So this is where you would write, oh, I can't type today, an informative description. There we go. Okay. Oh, I can't type at all. There we go. Okay. And then if you look up here on the site, this is where it's being displayed. Now, I don't particularly want or need it to exist here, but you could bold it, italic it, you could add links into this, you could all do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So it's limited by your imagination pretty much only. And if you prefer, or if you've watched a couple of previous articles, especially like, or videos when I was talking about my about page section, you would see that I actually prefer to work in the text or the code editor as opposed to the visual editor. But I'm just going to delete that all out, and by default, with nothing populated, it just leaves this whole entire section empty. So that's good. I'm just going to check the code. Yep, nothing there. That's all good. So moving on down, there's things that we can do now to configure this section. So hide post categories. If you look up here on the page, these little blue markers, as it were, basically telling the showing us at the moment the demo categories that exist as part of our theme installation. So I'm just going to hide those, and then you can see that they quickly disappear. Now I'm actually going to keep them because I quite like the way that it provides that extra functionality for visitors to the site. So I'm going to untick that. Oh, let me just move myself because you couldn't see, but there you go. That's where the hide post categories exist there. The custom excerpt length. Now, if you look carefully, this here is probably being fed. We'll have a look in just a moment at the 3 demo blog articles. But you can see as it goes along, it's kind of finishing a word, and then you've got these 3 tiny little dots at the end of every single blog. Now, that's kind of where the the teaser text ends, as it were. There's only so many characters that you can fit in there. Now, the excerpt, if it's been provided on that page, or that blog post I should say, then it will provide the excerpt here. If there is no excerpt existing, it will feed this information from the first few lines of text on the page that you've put on the post. Okay, you can actually change that excerpt length. Let's just say, for example, let's say make it 100, and you'll see that will allow a lot more text to show here. If I was to make it say 20, it makes it even shorter. So you can have a bit of a tweak if you want to, and that's basically there. What this is saying is the excerpt length and having a play. You can use the excerpt meta box itself to basically populate this, or the full content and so forth. So I'm just going to leave it as it is and take out that and leave it to the default, because I think it pretty much does the job for me. Okay, now this number of posts to showing 3, this is basically telling the home page of our website how many articles, and as you can see there are 3 showing here. What I could do is just say 1, and that's what it would look like. Obviously 2 or 3. Now I actually quite like 3 again, so there's not a lot of tweaking that needs to take place there, but now that you know how to configure it, you can play to your heart's desire. Category to show, you can show all of them, that's fine. Order by, now for me, the order needs to be the most recent article topmost, and then it sort of pushes them down the list on the page until sort of they disappear off and you have to go and read the full blog in total. So if you don't like that, for example, it could be date, descending or ascending, you can basically tweak these settings, and we can go look at these dates in a minute to see if it needs to be ascending or descending. I should imagine it will be descending. And then basically down the bottom here we've got settings to configure this particular button. So this will be your way of allowing your audience to go and view all the different articles on your site that you have. So obviously at the moment we're just working with these 3 demo datas. So you can customize that link. At the moment, as you can see there, it goes through the demo site. So read all our blog articles. There we go. So I think that's a bit more meaningful. And we can change this to be, let's go to the news section of our site. There you go. And then here we could customize it ourselves. I'm just going to publish because I'm just wondering if we need to put that in at all. Let me just check. Sometimes you have to refresh your mind, as it were. There we go. So there's our blog articles. If we click on this now, there you go, it does do the job. So it's going to our news page. So there's our slug that we left as the word news. You could put that as blog. Obviously it's populating this up here saying blog, but I do actually want to call it news, and I'm going to, when I actually populate the menu in the next video, I will be calling it news up here in the main menu as well, which doesn't yet exist. But there's our 3 different blog articles. Now we have got all of these things going down on the side here, but these are actually powered by the widgets of our website and not actually in the blog area itself. So let me just come back to the home page. There we go. Leave that as it is. Okay, so let me just come out of here and I'll show you how to now configure this. So let's close this section, and let's actually navigate on through to our main news section of our site. Okay, so let's control these widgets down here. Now I actually quite like the search feature existing on a site. It does, you know, I think really help the user if they're looking for something specific. So I'm going to leave that as it is. So if we come over here now to our widgets on the left hand menu, you can see here that we can place widgets in the footer. There's 4 different columns that we can use, or this is the sidebar. Now the footers themselves don't have any content at the moment. We will cover that in a future tutorial when I decide to populate that section of the website. But here is the sidebar, and as you can see there's the search feature, which is here, and then straight underneath it we've got recent posts and then recent comments. Now I actually, personally speaking, this to me is all clutter and I like to get rid of all of it. So I'm literally just deleting it, but it's okay if you do something similar and you decide that you want to bring it back in. All of the stuff that you are sort of removing becomes an inactive widget and it comes back down here, and all you need to do is grab it and drag it back up into the field. So it's something that you can easily add in and remove anytime you fancy. So past articles, past news articles. I do quite like leaving that, so that makes it available, but I'm going to display it as a drop down and show post counts possibly. So down here, where are we? Archives. This is demo data again, so it's just showing you the 2 months. That's how it's currently configured to display. I've just tweaked it to call this section past news articles, which will change the title. I'm displaying it as a drop down, and I'm showing it as past post counts as well to say how popular they are. Now you don't necessarily need to have that. If I save and then refresh over here, you'll see that this section, those other bits and bobs have just cleared up, but there you go. Now you can see it as a drop down, and I think that's a little bit nicer as a user experience. Personally speaking, that's my choice, but you can obviously play and do what you would like. Categories, I think, is always a good way of searching your site. Now I'm going to put this as news categories. I'm also going to display it as a hierarchy system. Drop down, I might change that actually. I don't want the drop down, and the number of posts. Let me just change that and save and refresh and show you why. Okay, so the reason this is news categories now, so this is my new section of my website. So these again are default categories that are existing purely because of the demo data, and in the next couple of tutorials, once I've done the menu up here on the main page, I will go and change these categories as I start to populate with my own content. But essentially it's now showing in the bracket how many articles exist for that particular category. So for example, on this website I'm going to have a getting started category, which will show the YouTube videos for my this arm of my branch of my business, which is currently using the playlists. So I'm going to be putting all those sort of getting started videos, learning how to program, getting some of the basic foundations in, which is the videos that I've got published at the moment. And then as of next week, when I start to help you guys build your actual first app, which is going to be tic-tac-toe or noughts and crosses, I will actually put that into a different playlist, which will actually populate a different category here on my website, which will be something like tic-tac-toe. So that's how I'm kind of correlating my playlists on YouTube to my categories on my WordPress website. This metadata, I think this is quite poor, so I don't want any of that showing, so I'm going to take that one out as well. Delete that section, and what I am going to do is I'm going to add in keywords, which is basically your tag cloud. And as you can see, I'm just picking it up, holding it down with my cursor and dragging it up here, and I'm going to place it between my categories and my archived or past news articles, and I'm going to put keyword tags. There we go. I've obviously used this phrase quite regularly on other sites that I've built. Now it's saying to me the taxonomy is basically what is it going to power. I could technically choose this to be categories. I'm not going to. I actually want it to be tags, and I'm going to show the tag count. Now what this means, let me just come out of here and let me see if they've got any displayed on the site. So this meta detail goes. So this particular theme has a way of presenting the tags based on their popularity. Now, if you think of a tag as a keyword, which is why I actually call it keyword tags, if I am struggling on something and I want to look at something that has the word alignment in it, I want to look at all the blog articles that have ever existed using the word alignment. At the moment, I can see really quickly it's a reasonably popular tag or keyword. It's got 2 articles existing. I could click on that, and that will allow me now to see what the titles of those articles are and if I want to investigate them any further. Up here, this is the meta detail for the actual article itself, and if you want to turn this off, as in you don't necessarily want to show the published date or the author, you can do that inside your main site customizer section, where it controls the entire site. So that's just obviously demo data. Bear with me a second while this is loading. So here we've got your single post, whereby we're using the default layout, whereby if you wanted to, you could always make sure that it forced onto a right hand sidebar, which is what's been going on our articles anyway. So if I come over and show you that in play, you can see that this is the right sidebar, but we could also control it for the entire site and say it's got to be on the left hand side. We could also, this main content area here, I think the default here is about 800, so we're going to just leave it as it is because I think this is all spaced out nicely, but we could technically change this to be sort of narrower if we wanted to. And show single post thumbnail, check this box if to show the thumbnail on a single post. Now on my McCall Media website, I've actually turned that off because the YouTube video is embedded, and the image for this YouTube video is the same image that I was using here as a thumbnail. So to have that same image show up twice back to back as the same size looked quite nasty. So that's what will happen if you turn that off. So if you turn that off or turn it on, it basically shows you the image for the thumbnail there, which when we were on the sort of summary of all the articles, you will be able to remember seeing that as the thumbnail image for this post. So that's basically how you control that. And then here, this is the bit that I was actually trying to show you. Show single post meta details. That is basically the date and author. If I turn it off, it disappears. So again, you can control a little bit about what the specific posts themselves are showing. Now again, I actually quite like that, so I'm going to leave that as it is. And obviously at the moment this is all demo data, so when I delete these articles and start publishing my own, that will be replaced with the date that I publish those articles and my name. So I'm going to leave that as it is because it's presenting the articles in the way that I want them to be uniformly visually seen and witnessed, as it were. The other thing I'm just going to double check in here is blog posts themselves. So disable archive prefix, which basically is something that you can do as well to sort of show that it was a sort of a past article or not, or hide the thumbnail placeholder if it doesn't exist. Now if you remember up here, because I'm logged in behind the scenes, you can see this test example. If I had this hidden as because there's no image existing, instead of having this grey sort of placeholder image showing where the thumbnail image should exist, we could have turned it off so that it doesn't look nasty on the website from a user's point of point of view, which is basically what you would be doing if you ticked that box there. So again, I don't want to do that. I'm going to leave it as it is for me particularly, and I'm going to leave the thumbnail image showing because I am not going to be putting YouTube videos directly into the top of my blog posts. So that's basically how you can configure your blog stroke news articles for your website, your right hand sidebar, your presentation of the single news articles themselves, as well as the category on your home page and on its main blog page as well. So that's it from me today. I hope that kind of really sort of helps you sort of work your way around what it is that you are meant to be doing, or if you were trying to get yourself a little bit lost. It's not particularly a technical video today. It was more a case of just turning some things on and off, but again, it's still helpful to have someone walk this through with you. Now obviously I was using the WordPress website theme, as we have covered this as part of the tutorial course that I'm doing, but it's pretty much a similar sort of thing. Most companies who publish themes will work in a very similar way, so they might just call things a little bit different, but you'll have the same sort of tools and features. Now if you want to learn more, please do subscribe, stay notified to my channel, because in the next video I'm going to basically implement that whole menu bar here at the top of the site, which is currently missing, so that it's easier for people to navigate between the about page on my site, because that exists. That's what we covered in the last tutorial. So we need now to give people a way to navigate between the different pages of my site, the blog articles, the about page and the home page. And then obviously when we start building in things like the contact page and so forth, that will all be on there as well. So that's what we're going to be covering in the next episode. So thank you very much again for watching. I hope you found that really useful, and I'll see you on another video real soon.